Boom. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Rise and shine, little darlings. It's another glorious Marine Corps morning. It is May the 22nd, 2023, 5:56 in the morning, and it's time for a morning word. So if you haven't gotten up yet, pick up that phone and look at it. It just went off beside your bed. Turn around, put your feet on the floor, and get into that kitchen and get you a cup of coffee. Get your Bible. Clear your head just for a second as we wait for people to get online. And join us here for about 15 to 20 minutes for a morning word as you get started this morning. Now let's go. Shake, rattle, and hum. Don't make me say it again. It's time to rock and roll. It's another glorious day. Here we go. Let me get this thing expanded.
Let me say it again.
There we go. Right there. Let's see who's here. Jim Allen, Sonny B, Richard Brown. Morning, Brown. Chris Miller, Josh Johnson. Good morning, Josh. Nick, Faye, Al, Mary. Good morning. Doug Jones, my man in low places. There he is. Jana Mason. Good morning. You too, Miss Faye. Hey, Artie. You just about got this bus driving season licked. There, my man Tyler. Hey, Tyler, Beth and I came to a decision. I'll be contacting you today or tomorrow. Hey, Gary Skipper. What's up, Nick? Dez, good morning. Good morning to you, Doug Jones. Kim. Hey, Daryl, what's going on? Elaine. Robin, what's up, Rob? Been keeping up, Robin, with all your family on Facebook, the pictures you've been putting up. Good morning, Wade Hamner. He's in South Carolina. He's headed to New York and Maine to drop off puppies. Hey, Rebecca, good to see you and Mike in Sunday school yesterday. Look at Larry. Larry just flipped 77, Larry Sullivan. Mike Pate, good to see you and Appy and your family yesterday. What's up, Buddy D? Look at Bill. Old Cowboys. Willie Kelly. Tina V. Tina, you got the cowboy with you? You got your puppy sitting up there beside you? Hey, Deborah. Sharon. Hey, Tina, what's that blue heeler's name? Becky?
Duke.
Huh?
Duke.
Duke. Yeah, y'all got Duke with you. Good morning, Gail. What's up, Jim Pennington? You too, Mike. Kim said, was that not the sweetest piano recital? Yes, ma'am. Hey, Teddy. Hey, David. Hey, Sharon. Hey, Joe. What's going on? Yep. Old Larry Sullivan on here. Good deal. I hear you, Tina. Old Larry flipped 77 years old. How about that? Hey, Julie. Duke.
Today's Larry's birthday?
Yeah, today's Larry's birthday. Can't believe Connie stayed with him that long. Lord of mercy. Hey, Gail. Good morning to you. Duke. You got the Duke man up in there. Put him on the screen. Take a picture of him watching the morning word and put it up on the screen. Good morning, Brandy. Rise and shine. Carrie Rickett. Good morning, Carrie Rickett from Arkansas. Woo, woo, pig, suey. How about those Razorbacks? Hey, Sharon Shirley. Hey, Melanie. Glad you're watching us from Arkansas, Carrie. I always ask. Yeah, I hear you, Larry. Hey, Mary, I just ask that you share the video. If it means something to you, get something out of it, just share it up there with your friends in Arkansas and see if they'll share it with their friends wherever they are. So that's all we ask. Hey, Bonnie Ray, good morning to you. On time. Yes, you are. All right, here we go. Cups up. Toast to the morning word crowd. God bless you and God bless America. All right, here we go. 1 Kings chapter 17. 1 Kings chapter 17. We're going to start with verse 1. We've been going through the kings, and now up on the scene, out of nowhere, comes a prophet. His name is Elijah. He's the first of many prophets, and over the course of the next 300 years of biblical history, because most of the kings were wicked, and all of the priests, for the most part, had been compromised. They were wicked, certainly not meeting the criteria of laid out by God through the law of Moses. the priest, not many of them left from the tribe of Levi anyway. So God started speaking to the nations, to the kings, and to the priests through the prophets for about the next 300 years. And Elijah just comes running up to the forefront of biblical history here in the Bible from nowhere. So let's just kind of read it, and here we go. It's like, boom, there it is. All right, and Elijah the Tishbite, that's the introduction. And Elijah the Tishbite, where did he come from? Well, he came from Tishbe, all right. Elijah the Tishbite of the inhabitants of Gilead said to Ahab, as the Lord God of Israel lives, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years except at my word. Then the word of the Lord came to him, saying, get away from here and turn eastward and hide by the brook Cherith, which flows into the Jordan. And it will be that you shall drink from the brook. And I have commanded the ravens to feed you there. So he went and did according to the word of the Lord, for he went and stayed by the brook Cherith, which flows into the Jordan. The ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening. And he drank from the brook. And it happened after a while that the brook dried up, because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him, saying, arise and go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. See, I have commanded a widow there to provide for you. So he arose and went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, indeed a widow, Lord of mercy. Indeed a widow was there gathering sticks. And he called to her and said, please bring me a little water in a cup that I may drink. And as she was going to get it, he called to her and said, please bring me a morsel of bread in your hand. So she said, as the Lord your God lives, I do not have bread, only a handful of flour in a bin and a little oil in a jar. And see, I am gathering a couple of sticks that I may go in and prepare it for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. In other words, this is the Last Supper for them, literally. All right. And Elijah said to her, do not fear. Go and do as you have said, but make me a small cake from it first, and bring it to me, and afterward make some for yourself and your son. For thus says the Lord God of Israel, the bin of flour shall not be used up, nor shall the jar of oil run dry, until the day the Lord sends rain on the earth. So she went away and did according to the word of Elijah, which was, of course, the word of the Lord. And she and her household ate for many days. The bin of flour was not used up, nor did the jar of oil run dry, according to the word of the Lord, which he spoke to Elijah. Now, we don't know where Elijah came from per se. We don't know how he came to faith. We don't know how he started believing in God. Just all of a sudden, boom, there he is on the pages of the Bible. And he's a believer in God, a worshiper of the true and the living God, and he is a prophet of God. Now, God has sent him to have a confrontation with King Ahab, who is ruling over the northern kingdom. And he has married him a show enough Jezebel, and her name is Jezebel. And she is a Sidonian, a Sidonian princess. Her father eventually becomes the king of Sidon, and they are pagan worshipers. Remember this word, Sidon. That's where Jezebel is from. It is a pagan, foreign enemy of Israel. Now, Ahab marries her, and we're going to get back to this probably tomorrow, talking more about her, but he sets up a temple for her, a temple to Baal, because she's a Baal worshiper. Her people are Baal worshipers. That's why God tells us not to be unequally yoked. Go find you somebody that's of the same faith. And so it caused him a lot of problems. It caused her a lot of problems in the end. When you butt up against God, you're going to lose that every time, all the time. It's just a matter of time. And so he sets up a temple for Baal, and she's worshiping Baal, and he begins to worship Baal, and the northern kingdom begins to worship Baal. Now, the irony of that is, among all the other things that Baal was supposed to be in control of because he was God, was the weather. So God tells the prophet Elijah, go tell Ahab it's not going to rain. They can chant, they can worship, they can cry, they can squall, they can lay on the ground, throw dirt on themselves. It ain't going to rain till I decide it's going to rain. So it's a showdown of the gods, and it's through Elijah and Ahab and Jezebel. Now, when God proclaims a drought, guess who it affects? It affects the prophet, Elijah. So Elijah is in the land where there's a drought. So God commands him to go down into the wilderness by a brook where there's free running water for the time being. It hasn't rained. It's starting. A drought has started. And God said, you're going to drink from the brook. And I've commanded the ravens to bring you food. Now, the irony of the ravens is that God, through the law of Moses, said that the ravens were unclean. They're unclean animals. But yet it was the ravens that was bringing him bread. Where's the bread coming from? Somebody else's table. Meat, where's the meat coming from? Somebody else's table. Bread, meat, and he's drinking water out of the creek. All right? So today's morning word, okay, is strange places and strange faces. And here's the lesson that we're going to be talking about here for just the next couple of minutes. Never discount where, how, when, and who God can bring you help. Never discount where, when, how, or who God can bring you help. We're going to talk about a who here in a minute, the widow Zarephath. But God is bringing help. Watch this now. God is bringing help. He's keeping Elijah alive with a creek and birds. Not just birds, but unclean birds. And we don't know where they're getting their food and their bread. Could be God just brought it out of the air, they haven't got it. Or could it be that they're taking it off somebody else's plate? Could be that it's coming out of Ahab's palace off somebody's plate. Scraps that they thought. We have no idea. Now, guys, listen, here's a little lesson we need to learn. God was providing for Elijah, but it wasn't 5-star accommodations. And when God says he's going to take care of us, it doesn't mean 5-star accommodations. When God said, I'll meet all of your needs according to your riches and glory, it might be a bite of bread and a bite of meat, and you might have to drink out of the creek. But that's all you need, right? That's all we need. So please don't put this expectation that God's going to provide for your needs the way you perceive your needs to be, and that is on a clean plate with a clean glass, sitting at the counter with somebody else waiting on you and then washing the dishes. That's not necessarily how God does it sometimes. Strange places, strange faces. The other thing is this. These were unclean birds. And sometimes we as Christians, we feel like we can't go to such and such place because it's full of lost folks, or it's a demon hell territory. That's a bad city, and so forth and so on. And we're not going to go to the public school, or we're not going to go to Chicago, or we're not going to go here. We're not going to do that. And we have no idea who God has there and how God might provide there. Now, if God, I'm not telling you just up and go, but I'm saying if God's leading you there and you need to be there, you go. Some people say, I'd never drink out of a creek. Some of you girls got your nails done. I'd never drink out of a creek. You will if you get hungry, get thirsty. You'll eat. You'd never eat leftovers. I don't eat leftovers. Oh, you will. I had a nephew that wouldn't eat crust on his bread until he came to my house. That's all the bread we had. Bread that had crust on it. He ate it. And so I'm just trying to say that we need to stop being so spoiled and so narrow-minded as to think that God is compelled and bound to provide for us the way that we think we need to be provided for. I mean, this is God's man. This is God's prophet. You would think, hey man, he's gonna have an air-conditioned chalet somewhere laid up with his feet, asking his friends to send him an extra $50 million so he can upgrade his jet. That ain't what he's doing. He's drinking out of a creek and birds are bringing him leftovers. But he's having his needs provided. And you know what? Now fancy this. The prophet of God that's doing the work of God is camped out by a creek drinking creek water, and the creek dries up. All right? And so it doesn't do you any good to have bread and meat if you don't have something to drink. Can't wash it down. So here's what God does. God comes and says, hey, taps him on the shoulder. Strange places and strange faces. Now watch this now. It said in verse 9, he said, arise and go to Zarephath. That didn't mean anything to you when you're reading it until you remember that Zarephath is in Sidon. Sidon is pagan-held land. It's pagan-occupied land. It's pagan land. It's where they worship Baal. It's where Jezebel is from. And God said, I want you to leave here, which is Israel. I want you to go into Phoenicia, Sidon of Phoenicia. And I want you to go camp out there. He said, I've commanded a widow there to take care of you. A who? A widow. You got to remember in biblical times, even in today's times, a widow, a woman, had no opportunity for work. She's widowed, meaning that she has no one to take care of her. She has a child that she's trying to take care of. And when he gets up there, he finds out she's got a handful of sticks. She's going to make a fire. They're getting ready to eat their last bread and their last, with their last oil. And so God has obviously sent him to a place, to a woman, a demon-infested place with a woman that's on her last leg. And she's supposed to be my help. All right. Strange places and strange faces. Never discount how, when, where, or who God can bring you help from. All right. So God goes there. God's already there. He sends Elijah there. Elijah shows up and here's the woman. And so Elijah knows that this is the woman and he asks her, what you doing? She tells him, I'm getting ready to make my last fire to make my last meal so me and my boy can die. We're done. We're out. We're tapped out. So here's what God says. Hey, listen, do what you're going to do, but make me something to eat first, and then you and the boy. To which we would say, no, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Strange places and strange faces. Never discount how, when, where, and who God might bring your help from. So she, as an act of faith, here's a woman, okay? Here's a woman who is a widow, broke, busted, and disgusted, in enemy-held territory, and I mean enemy of Israel and enemy of God, being a godless pagan nation. And God has a woman of faith right smack dab in the middle of that country. The last thing you expect to see in Sidon is a woman who has faith. Number one. The last thing that you expect to see in Sidon is a prophet of God who is dependent upon a widow who has faith in God. The last thing you expect to see in Sidon is a woman who is broke, busted, and disgusted, eating her last meal, who's going to feed it to the prophet. And the last thing you expect to see in Sidon is that very woman who, by an act of faith in God and at the word of the prophet, fed him first out of her last meal. And then the last thing you would expect from God is that he would make sure that that woman's bucket of oil never ran out and that her cupboard was never empty. Never. Out of all the people inside it, out of an entire city, out of an entire country, was one woman who exercised faith in God. Strange places and strange faces. And God never let her run out. The story goes on, but we're not going to go there today. We'll cover it later maybe. But you know what? When Elijah came to faith in God, and we don't know how, when, or where that was, we're pretty sure, we can be confident that he never knew exactly how God was going to use him, and that he would be the voice of God to a pagan worshiping king of Israel who married a heifer named Jezebel, and that he would be used by God to be in a spiritual confrontation from them and then have to run and hide and camp out at one-star accommodations by a brook, and nasty birds fed him leftovers, and then go from there into enemy-held territory, directly into pagan worshiping land, that there God had commanded. There God had commanded a widow. Let me read it again. He said, arise and go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. See, I have commanded a widow there to provide for you. Strange places, strange faces. Never discount where, who, when, or how God might provide for his people. We'll see you tomorrow.